Imagine a battlefield shrouded in the chaos of war, where the air hums with the clash of swords and the cries of the fallen. It is October 28, 312, near the Milvian Bridge outside Rome, and the fate of an empire hangs in the balance. Amid the blood-soaked ground and the smoke of battle, a Roman general named Constantine gazes upward, his eyes catching an extraordinary sight: a blazing cross etched against the stormy sky, accompanied by the words, "In this sign, conquer." Was this a divine miracle, a stroke of genius, or a clever manipulation of faith to rally his troops? Whatever the truth, that moment transformed Constantine from a mere soldier into a legend. Constantine the Great, the man who would reshape the Roman world and lay the foundation for the Byzantine Empire, a civilization that would endure for over a millennium. Born around 272 in Nisus, modern-day Serbia, Constantine was no destined heir to the throne. The son of a military officer, Constantius Chlorus, and Helena, a woman of humble origins, possibly an innkeeper's daughter, he grew up in the rugged world of Roman camps and frontier outposts. His early life was marked by ambition and struggle, as the Roman Empire teetered on the edge of collapse. The vast dominion that once stretched from Britain to Egypt was fracturing under the weight of internal strife, corrupt emperors, and relentless barbarian invasions. By the late 3rd century, the empire had become a shadow of its former self, its legions stretched thin, its cities vulnerable. Yet, amid this chaos, a bold decision in 285 by Emperor Diocletian to split the empire into East and West offered a glimmer of hope and set the stage for Constantine's rise. Constantine's ascent was anything but conventional. When his father died in 306, he was proclaimed emperor by his troops in Britain, but his path to power was a gauntlet of rival claimants and bloody conflicts. The Roman Empire was a fractured mosaic of competing rulers, each vying for dominance in a game of thrones that often ended in betrayal or assassination. Constantine's defining moment came at the Milvian Bridge, where he faced Maxentius, a rival with a larger army, and the advantage of defending Rome itself. Legend says that before the battle, Constantine saw the celestial cross-vision that prompted him to order his soldiers to paint the Christian symbol, the Chi, on their shields. Whether this was a genuine epiphany or a masterful psychological tactic, the result was undeniable. Against all odds, Constantine's forces triumphed, and Maxentius drowned in the Tiber River. This victory didn't just secure his rule over the Western Empire, it marked a turning point in history, blending military prowess with a newfound faith that would redefine an empire. But Constantine's vision extended far beyond the battlefield. In 313, he issued the Edict of Milan, a decree that legalized Christianity across the Roman Empire, ending centuries of persecution where believers were burned alive in arenas or hunted like prey. This was no small act. It transformed a marginalized sect into a unifying force, drawing millions into the fold and setting the stage for Christianity to become the cornerstone of Byzantine identity. Yet, this decision was not without controversy. Traditional Roman pagans, devoted to Jupiter and Mars, saw it as a betrayal of their ancestral gods, while early Christian factions clashed over doctrine, sowing seeds of division. Was Constantine a true believer, or a pragmatic ruler using religion to consolidate power? The answer lies in the monumental step he took next. In 324, after defeating Licinius to unify the Eastern and Western empires, Constantine turned his gaze to a new horizon. He chose a strategic site on the Bosporus Strait where Europe meets Asia and declared it the site of a new capital, Constantinople. Why this location? It was a natural fortress, protected by water on 3 sides, and a thriving hub on the Silk Road, where silk from China, spices from India, and gold from the East flowed into imperial coffers. Picture the scene. Workers toiled under the sun, raising towering walls, lavish palaces, and bustling ports, while merchants from distant lands filled the streets with their wares. By 330, Constantinople was inaugurated as the New Rome, a city designed to outshine its predecessor and serve as the heart of a reborn empire. But could this glittering jewel truly carry the weight of Rome's legacy, or would it evolve into something entirely new, shaped by Constantine's bold vision? The construction of Constantinople was more than a military or economic move, it was a cultural revolution. Constantine filled the city with churches, including the original Hagia Sophia, signaling the rise of Christian architecture that would later inspire masterpieces. He invited scholars, artists, and administrators from across the empire, blending Greek, Roman, and Christian influences into a unique identity. Yet this transformation came at a cost. The move alienated many in the old Roman elite, who saw Constantinople as a rival to their traditional power base. Internal tensions simmered, and Constantine's later years were marred by family tragedy, executing his son Crispus and wife Fausta amid rumors of betrayal and intrigue. Was this the price of his ambition, or a sign of the fragility beneath his achievements? Constantine's legacy, however, transcended his personal flaws. His reign bridged the ancient pagan world with the Christian era, laying the groundwork for the Byzantine Empire to flourish long after his death in 337. The Council of Nicaea in 325, which he convened to unify Christian doctrine, was a dramatic affair. Bishops argued fiercely, nearly turning the gathering into a battlefield, yet it produced the Nicene Creed, a cornerstone of Christian faith. His decision to divide the empire among his sons after his death, however, sowed the seeds for future conflicts, as the East and West drifted apart. Historians still debate, was Constantine a savior who rescued a crumbling empire, or a disruptor whose choices planted the seeds of its eventual division? As we stand at the threshold of this story, imagine the echoes of Constantinople's founding, its walls rising against the horizon, its churches ringing with new hymns, and its streets alive with the promise of a new age. Constantine the Great was more than a conqueror. He was an architect of destiny, a man whose vision turned a fractured Rome into the Byzantine Empire. But what drove him? Faith, power, or a blend of both? And how did his decisions shape the rise of a civilization that would face plagues, wars, and conquests in the centuries to come? In this documentary, we'll journey through the life of Constantine, uncovering the triumphs, controversies, and enduring impact of the man who built Byzantium. Are you ready to step into the world of a legend? Constantine the Great's journey to becoming the visionary who birthed the Byzantine Empire was marked by pivotal moments that not only shaped his legacy, but also altered the course of history. From a battlefield vision that fused faith with military might, to decrees that reshaped religious landscapes, and the creation of a city that would stand as a beacon for centuries, these events defined Constantine's reign. Let's dive into the three cornerstone moments of his life: the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312, the Edict of Milan in 313, and the founding of Constantinople in 330. Each of these events is a thread in the tapestry of Byzantium's rise, weaving together ambition, faith, and legacy in a story that echoes through time. Picture the scene on October 27, 312, just north of Rome near the Tiber River. The Roman Empire is a fractured realm, its once mighty dominion torn apart by rival emperors vying for power. Constantine, then a 40-year-old general who had been proclaimed emperor by his father's troops in 306, faces a formidable foe, Maxentius, the ruler of Rome and a man who commands a larger army and the strategic advantage of defending the Eternal City. Maxentius, the son of former Emperor Maximian, had fortified his position behind Rome's walls, expecting Constantine to falter in a prolonged siege. But Constantine, a man known for his boldness, had other plans. With an army of roughly 40, Roman estimates vary, but sources like Lactantius suggest he was outnumbered. The march south from Gaul, determined to claim his rightful place as ruler of the Western Empire. The stakes couldn't have been higher. For 6 years, Constantine had been consolidating power in the West, governing provinces like Gaul and Britain with a steady hand. But Maxentius, based in Rome, controlled Italy and North Africa, and his refusal to recognize Constantine's claim had plunged the empire into civil war. The two men were not just rivals for power, they represented different visions for Rome's future. Maxentius, a traditionalist, clung to the old pagan ways, while Constantine, influenced by his mother Helena's Christian faith, stood at a crossroads of belief and ambition. As his army approached the Milvian Bridge, a narrow crossing over the Tiber, that Maxentius had partially dismantled to hinder invaders, Constantine faced a moment of destiny that would forever change his path. According to early Christian writers like Eusebius and Lactantius, it was on the eve of battle that Constantine experienced a vision that would become the stuff of legend. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he reportedly looked to the sky and saw a cross of light, with the Greek words, "En tuto nika," "In this sign you shall conquer." That night, in a dream, Christ appeared to him, instructing him to place the Christian symbol, the Kiro, a monogram of the first two letters of Christ's name in Greek, on his soldiers' shields. Was this a genuine divine intervention, a psychological ploy to inspire his troops, or a later fabrication by Christian chroniclers eager to glorify Constantine's conversion? Historians remain divided. What's certain is that Constantine embraced the symbol, and his soldiers marched into battle bearing the Kiro, a bold declaration of faith in a world still dominated by pagan gods. The battle itself was a whirlwind of chaos and bravery. Maxentius, perhaps overconfident, left the safety of Rome's walls and ordered his troops to meet Constantine on the open field. He had ordered the Milvian Bridge rebuilt with a pontoon section, intending to trap Constantine's forces, but this decision proved fatal. As the battle raged, Constantine's disciplined legions outmaneuvered Maxentius's larger but less cohesive army. The turning point came when Maxentius's troops, pushed back toward the Tiber, attempted to retreat across the bridge. The pontoon section collapsed under their weight, plunging countless soldiers, including Maxentius himself, into the river's icy depths. His body, weighed down by armor, was later found downstream, a grim symbol of Constantine's triumph. The victory at the Milvian Bridge was more than a military success. It was a transformative moment for Constantine and the empire. Entering Rome as a conqueror, he was hailed as the sole ruler of the Western Empire, his authority undisputed. But more importantly, the battle marked the beginning of his public embrace of Christianity. The Arch of Constantine, erected in Rome to commemorate the victory, notably omits overt pagan imagery, instead featuring neutral symbols like the Sunna, subtle nod to his shifting beliefs. This moment set the stage for Constantine's role as a Christian emperor, a legacy that would define the Byzantine Empire as a bastion of faith. Yet the question lingers. Did Constantine truly believe in the vision, or did he see Christianity as a tool to unify a fractured empire? The answer lies in the next pivotal event of his reign. The year following the Milvian Bridge victory, Constantine took a step that would reverberate through the centuries. In 313, he met with Licinius, the ruler of the Eastern Empire, in the city of Milan to solidify their alliance against mutual rivals. The two emperors, though uneasy partners, shared a vision of stability for the empire. It was here that they issued the Edict of Milan, a decree that would fundamentally alter the religious landscape of the Roman world and lay the groundwork for Byzantium's Christian identity. Before the edict, Christians had endured centuries of persecution. Under emperors like Nero and Diocletian, they were scapegoats for societal ills, burned alive, thrown to lions in the Colosseum, or forced to renounce their faith under torture. Diocletian's great persecution, launched in 303, was particularly brutal, with churches razed, scriptures burned, and believers executed in droves. Yet Christianity had grown despidier, perhaps because of this oppression, spreading through the empire's urban centers and drawing converts from all walks of life. By the early 4th century, estimates suggest that Christians made up 10–15% of the empire's population, a significant minority that could no longer be ignored. The Edict of Milan was a revolutionary act of tolerance. Though not a formal law, more a joint statement of policy, it declared that Christians could freely and openly practice their faith without fear of persecution. It went further, granting them the right to reclaim confiscated property, including churches seized during Diocletian's reign. The edict extended this tolerance to all religions, stating that no one should be denied the opportunity to give his heart to the observance of the Christian religion, or that religion which he should think best for himself. This was a radical departure from Rome's tradition of state-enforced paganism, where emperors were often deified, and loyalty to the old gods was a test of allegiance. For Constantine, the edict was both a pragmatic and spiritual decision. On one hand, it was a strategic move to unify the empire. The Christian community, with its growing numbers and organizational structure, offered a potential base of support in a time of political instability. By aligning himself with this rising faith, Constantine could rally a loyal following while undermining the old pagan elite who had supported his rivals. On the other hand, his mother Helena's devout Christianity likely influenced his personal beliefs. Helena, who would later be canonized as a saint, is said to have guided Constantine toward the faith, and her later pilgrimage to Jerusalem where she reportedly discovered the true cross underscored her impact on his spiritual journey. The edict's immediate impact was profound. Across the empire, Christians emerged from hiding, their faith no longer a death sentence. Churches sprang up in cities and towns, their bells ringing with hymns of gratitude. In Rome, Constantine donated the Lateran Palace to the bishop, creating the first major Christian basilica, the Lateran Basilica, which became a symbol of the faith's new status. Bishops, once hunted, were now invited to imperial councils, their voices shaping policy. But this newfound freedom came with challenges. The edict exposed deep divisions within Christianity itself. Sects like the Donatists and Arians clashed over doctrine, leading to theological disputes that threatened the unity Constantine sought. The Edict of Milan was a turning point for the Byzantine Empire's identity. By legalizing Christianity, Constantine ensured that the faith would become the empire's spiritual backbone, a unifying force against external threats and internal dissent. Yet, it also sowed seeds of conflict. Traditional pagans, who still made up the majority of the population, resented the rise of this new religion, while Christian factions demanded supremacy, setting the stage for centuries of religious strife. Did Constantine foresee these tensions, or was his focus solely on the immediate stability of his empire? His next great act would provide a physical foundation for his Vizuna, new capital that would embody his legacy. By 324, Constantine had achieved what few Roman emperors could dream of. He defeated Licinius in a series of campaigns, uniting the Eastern and Western empires under his sole rule. With the empire now his, he turned his attention to a bold new projecta capital that would reflect his vision of a renewed Christian empire. Rome, the traditional heart of the empire, was no longer suitable. It was a city steeped in pagan tradition, its senate a bastion of old aristocratic power, and its location too far west to effectively govern the empire's eastern provinces, which were richer and more strategically vital. Constantine sought a new center, a city that could serve as both a fortress and a beacon of his legacy. He chose a site on the Bosporus Strait, a narrow waterway separating Europe and Asia, where the ancient Greek city of Byzantium stood. Why this location? The answer lies in its unparalleled advantages. The Bosporus offered natural defenses water on three sides, with the Golden Horn providing a sheltered harbor for trade and naval power. It sat at the crossroads of the Silk Road, linking Europe to Asia, where merchants brought silk from China, spices from India, and gold from the East. Militarily, it was a stronghold, easily defensible against invaders, yet perfectly positioned to project power into both the eastern and western halves of the empire. Constantine saw in this spot the potential for a new Romea city that could outshine its predecessor and embody his vision of a Christian empire. The transformation of Byzantium into Constantinople was a monumental undertaking. Between 324 and 330, Constantine poured immense resources into the project, mobilizing architects, engineers, and laborers from across the empire. Imagine the scene. Workers toiled under the Mediterranean sun, hauling marble and stone to raise towering walls that stretched across the peninsula, their ramparts designed to withstand any siege. Grand avenues were laid out, lined with columns and statues plundered from older citizen. Whispered that Constantine even brought the famous serpent column from Delphi to adorn his new capital. The Hippodrome, a massive arena for chariot races, was constructed to rival Rome's Circus Maximus, capable of seating tens of thousands of spectators who would cheer for their favorite teams, the Blues and Greens, in spectacles that often turned political. At the heart of the city, Constantine built churches to signal its Christian identity. The original Hagia Sophia, later rebuilt by Justinian, was among them, its dome a symbol of the faith's rising prominence. The Church of the Holy Apostles, where Constantine would eventually be buried, was another testament to his devotion. But he didn't entirely abandon the old Roman traditions. The Forum of Constantine, a grand public square, featured a towering column topped with a statue of the emperor as Apollo, a nod to the pagan past even as he embraced Christianity. This blending of cultures, Roman, Greek, and Christian, became the hallmark of Constantinople, a city that was both a continuation of Rome and a bold new beginning. On May 11, 330, Constantinople was officially dedicated as the new capital of the Roman Empire, an event marked by lavish ceremonies and celebrations. Picture the streets filled with citizens from every corner of the empire, merchants from Persia, scholars from Athens, soldiers from Gaul, gathered to witness the birth of a new era. Constantine, dressed in imperial purple, led a procession through the city, blessing its walls and churches, his presence a symbol of unity and renewal. The city quickly grew into a thriving metropolis, its ports bustling with trade, its academies attracting the brightest minds, and its churches ringing with hymns that echoed the emperor's vision. The founding of Constantinople was a masterstroke that ensured the survival of the Eastern Roman Empire long after the West fell in 476. It became the heart of the Byzantine Empire, a city that would withstand invasions, plagues, and betrayals for over 1,000 years. But it also marked a shift in the empire's center of gravity away from Rome and toward the east, a divide that would deepen over time. Did Constantine realize the long-term consequences of his decision, or was he focused solely on the immediate needs of his empire? His new capital would outlive him by centuries, becoming a bridge between the ancient and medieval worlds, a testament to his enduring vision. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge, the Edict of Milan, and the founding of Constantinople were not just events, they were turning points that defined Constantine's reign and the future of the Byzantine Empire. The vision at Milvian gave him the spiritual mandate to lead. The Edict of Milan transformed the empire's religious landscape, and Constantinople provided a physical foundation for his legacy. Together, these moments illustrate a man who was both a product of his time and a visionary ahead of it, a ruler who bridged the pagan and Christian worlds while forging a new empire from the ashes of the old. But what drove him? Was it faith, ambition, or a mix of both? And how did these events set the stage for the challenges Byzantium would face in the centuries to come? Let's explore further in the next chapter of Constantine's extraordinary journey. Constantine the Great's life is a story of transformation, a journey from a battle-hardened Roman general to a Christian leader who reshaped the spiritual and political landscape of an empire. His reign bridged two worlds, blending the martial traditions of Rome with the rising tide of Christianity, a faith that would define the Byzantine Empire for centuries. But this transformation was not without controversy, particularly surrounding the infamous Sign of the Cross at the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. Was it a genuine miracle, or a calculated tactic by a shrewd commander? And what legacy did Constantine leave behind, an enduring foundation for Byzantium, or a fragile empire destined to fracture? Let's explore these perspectives, delving into the man behind the myth, the debates that still linger, and the impact of his choices on the world we know today. Constantine's early life was steeped in the traditions of a Roman warrior. Born around 272 in Nisus, modern-day Niš, Serbia, he grew up in a world where the empire's survival depended on the strength of its legions. His father, Constantius Chlorus, was a high-ranking officer who rose to become a Caesar in Diocletian's tetrarchy, a system that divided the empire into 4 regions to manage its sprawling territories. Constantine spent his formative years in military camps, learning the art of war alongside grizzled soldiers who worshipped Mars, the god of battle. As a young man, he served under Diocletian and Galerius in the east, fighting campaigns against the Persians and barbarian tribes along the Danube. These experiences forged him into a disciplined commander, a man who understood the brutal realities of power in a crumbling empire. Yet, beneath this martial exterior, there were early signs of a spiritual curiosity that would later define his reign. His mother, Helena, was a devout Christian, a faith she likely shared with her son despite the risks. During Diocletian's great persecution, 300 and 313, Christians were hunted mercilessly, their churches burned, and their leaders executed. Constantine, serving at Diocletian's court in Nicomedia, would have witnessed this brutality firsthand. Did these experiences plant the seeds of sympathy for the Christian cause, or was he merely observing a growing movement that he could later exploit? The answer lies in the pivotal moment of his transformation, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge in 312. After his victory over Maxentius, Constantine began a public shift toward Christianity that was as dramatic as it was controversial. The Chi symbol he ordered his soldiers to bear became a banner of his new identity, a stark contrast to the eagle standards of Roman tradition. In the years that followed, he openly supported the Christian community, granting them privileges and funding the construction of churches like the Lateran Basilica in Rome. By 313, the Edict of Melanco, signed with Licinius, legalized Christianity, a radical departure from centuries of persecution. But this transformation was not a sudden conversion, it was a gradual evolution, shaped by both personal belief and political necessity. Constantine's actions reveal a complex blend of faith and pragmatism. He continued to honor some pagan traditions, such as his depiction as Apollo on the column of Constantine in Constantinople, suggesting he was hedging his bets in a still divided empire. He delayed his own baptism until shortly before his death, in 337, a common practice among early Christians who believed baptism absolved all sins, but also a sign of his cautious approach to fully embracing the faith. Yet, his mother Helena's influence cannot be understated. Her pilgrimage to Jerusalem in 326, where she reportedly discovered the true cross, reinforced Constantine's commitment to Christianity, and her canonization as a saint reflects the family's deep ties to the faith. This transformation had profound implications for the Byzantine Empire. By aligning himself with Christianity, Constantine turned a marginalized sect into the empire's spiritual backbone, a unifying force that would define Byzantium's identity as a Christian state. Churches replaced temples, bishops became political advisors, and the emperor himself was seen as God's representative on earth, a concept that would shape Byzantine governance for centuries. But this shift also alienated the old Roman elite, who saw Christianity as a threat to their traditions, and sparked tensions with pagan communities that lingered well into the 5th century. Was Constantine a true believer, or a pragmatic leader using faith to consolidate power? His transformation suggests both a warrior who found a new weapon in Christianity, one that would outlast the swords of his legions. At the heart of Constantine's transformation lies a debate that has intrigued historians for centuries: the sign of the cross he reportedly saw before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge. According to Eusebius of Caesarea, a contemporary biographer and close ally of Constantine, the emperor saw a cross of light in the sky with the words, "In this sign, conquer," in Greek, en tuto nika. Lactantius, another early source, adds that Constantine dreamed of Christ that night, who instructed him to place the Chi symbol on his soldiers' shields. The next day, his army marched to victory, cementing the event as a turning point in his embrace of Christianity. But was this vision a genuine miracle, a psychological tactic, or a later fabrication by Christian chroniclers? The argument for a miracle hinges on the cultural context of the time. The early 4th century was an era of spiritual upheaval, where signs and omens were taken seriously as messages from the divine. Constantine's mother Helena was a devout Christian, and his exposure to the faith may have made him receptive to such a vision. Eusebius, writing in his Life of Constantine, claims the emperor himself recounted the story years later, swearing its truth before witnesses. The vision's impact on the battle's outcome, Constantine's improbable victory over a larger force, lends credence to the idea that a divine hand guided him, at least in the eyes of early Christians, who saw the event as proof of God's favor. Yet, there are compelling arguments for a more pragmatic interpretation. Constantine was a seasoned commander who understood the power of morale in warfare. The Roman army was a melting pot of beliefs, with many soldiers still loyal to pagan gods like Mithras or Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun. By adopting the Chi-Rho symbol unfamiliar to most, but associated with a growing Christian minority, Constantine may have sought to inspire his troops with a sense of divine protection, while also distinguishing his forces from Maxentius's. The vision could have been a strategic fabrication, shared with his soldiers to boost their confidence before a critical battle. The fact that Constantine delayed his baptism and continued to honor pagan traditions suggests he was not fully committed to Christianity at this point, supporting the idea that the vision was more tactical than spiritual. A third perspective posits that the story was embellished after the fact by Christian writers like Eusebius and Lactantius, who had a vested interest in portraying Constantine as a divinely chosen leader. Eusebius wrote his account after Constantine's death, and Lactantius's version, written closer to the event, differs in details suggesting the story evolved over time. The lack of contemporary non-Christian sources mentioning the vision adds to the skepticism. Could the sign of the cross have been a natural phenomenon, like a halo effect caused by ice crystals in the atmosphere, which Constantine interpreted as a divine sign? Or was it a complete invention, crafted to legitimize his rule in the eyes of a growing Christian population? The debate remains unresolved, but its significance lies in what it reveals about Constantine's reign. Whether a miracle or a tactic, the sign of the cross became a symbol of his transformation, marking the moment he began to align himself with Christianity. It also underscores the power of narrative in shaping history. Constantine's vision, real or not, inspired generations of Christians and solidified his place as a pivotal figure in the faith's rise. For the Byzantine Empire, this moment set the stage for its role as a Christian stronghold, a legacy that would endure through centuries of challenges. Constantine's legacy is as vast as the empire he sought to unify, a tapestry of triumphs and contradictions that shaped the Byzantine Empire and the broader world. His most immediate impact was the creation of Constantinople, a city that became the heart of Byzantium and a bridge between East and West. Founded in 330, Constantinople was more than a capital. It was a symbol of Constantine's vision, blending Roman governance, Greek culture, and Christian faith into a new imperial identity. The city's strategic location on the Bosporus ensured its survival long after the Western Roman Empire fell in 476, serving as a bastion against invasions and a hub for trade and scholarship. Its walls, churches, and forums stood as testaments to Constantine's ambition, inspiring future emperors like Justinian to build upon his foundation. Religiously, Constantine's embrace of Christianity transformed the empire and the world beyond. The Edict of Milan in 313 not only legalized the faith but also elevated it to a position of prominence, setting the stage for its dominance in Byzantium. His convening of the Council of Nicaea in 325 was another milestone, addressing the Arian controversia, theological dispute over the nature of Christ's divinity, and producing the Nicene Creed, a foundational statement of Christian belief. While the council didn't fully resolve the debate, Arianism persisted for centuries. It established the emperor's role as a mediator in religious matters, a precedent that would define Byzantine governance. Constantine's support for church construction, like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, further cemented Christianity's place in the empire's cultural fabric. But Constantine's legacy is not without its shadows. His transformation of the empire deepened the divide between East and West, a rift that became permanent after his death in 337. He divided the empire among his three sons, Constantine II, Constans, and Constantius, hoping to ensure stability, but this decision led to civil wars and further fragmentation. The Western Empire, centered in Rome, grew increasingly vulnerable to barbarian invasions, while the Eastern Empire, based in Constantinople, flourished as Byzantium. Some historians argue that Constantine's focus on the East accelerated Rome's decline, though others counter that his new capital ensured the empire's survival in a new form. Beyond Byzantium, Constantine's legacy influenced the modern world in profound ways. His legal reforms, though less famous than Justinian's later Corpus Juris Civilis, laid the groundwork for a Christianized legal system, influencing medieval European law. The spread of Christianity he championed shaped the cultural and political landscape of Europe, from the Holy Roman Empire to the Orthodox churches of the East. Even today, Constantinople, Istanbul, remains a city of global significance, its history a testament to Constantine's vision. The Hagia Sophia, though built after his time, stands on the foundations he laid, a symbol of the Christian empire he envisioned. Constantine's personal legacy is equally complex. He was a man of contradictions, a warrior who embraced peace, a pagan who became a Christian, a unifier who sowed division. His family life was marred by tragedy. In 326, he ordered the execution of his eldest son, Crispus, and his wife, Fausta, amid allegations of treason and infidelity, events that cast a shadow over his later years. Yet, his death in 337, after a reign of 31 years, was marked by a final act of faith. He was baptized on his deathbed, fully committing to the religion he had championed. Buried in the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, he was venerated as a saint by the Eastern Orthodox Church, a fitting tribute to a man who bridged two eras. What can we make of Constantine's legacy? He was a visionary who saw the potential of a new faith to unite an empire, a strategist who used that faith to secure his rule, and a builder whose city outlived him by 1,000 years. But he was also a man whose choices had unintended consequences, from religious divisions to the East-West schism. For the Byzantine Empire, Constantine was the cornerstone, the founder whose vision of a Christian Rome endured through centuries of turmoil. Yet his legacy raises a question. Did he save the empire, or merely delay its inevitable transformation? As we reflect on his life, we see a man who changed the world not through perfection, but through the audacity of his vision. What lessons can we draw from Constantine today, as we navigate our own era of change and uncertainty? Let's ponder that as we move to the next chapter of his story. As we stand at the end of Constantine the Great's remarkable journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the towering figure who reshaped the ancient world and planted the seeds for the Byzantine Empire civilization that would endure for over 1,000 years. Picture the scene. The walls of Constantinople shimmer under the Mediterranean sun, their stones a testament to a vision that turned a fractured Roman Empire into a Christian stronghold. From the chaos of a battlefield vision at the Milvian Bridge in 312 to the founding of a new capital in 330, Constantine's life was a whirlwind of ambition, faith, and transformation. But what did he leave behind? And how does his legacy resonate through the ages? And what new heights would the empire reach under the next great emperor, Justinian I? Let's close this chapter and look ahead to the golden age that awaits. Constantine's reign was a bridge between two eras of time, when the Roman Empire, battered by internal strife and external threats, needed a leader bold enough to redefine its destiny. Born in Naissus around 272, Constantine rose from the son of a military officer to the sole ruler of a unified empire, his path marked by victories that were as much spiritual as they were military. The Battle of the Milvian Bridge was a defining moment, where a vision of a cross in the sky, whether miracle or tactic, propelled him to victory over Maxentius and set him on a path toward Christianity. The Edict of Milan in 313, co-signed with Licinius, legalized this faith, turning a persecuted sect into the empire's spiritual cornerstone. And the founding of Constantinople in 330 gave the empire a new heart, a city that would outshine Rome and become the bedrock of Byzantium. But Constantine's legacy is not just a list of events, it's a story of transformation. He began as a Roman warrior, trained in the art of war under emperors like Diocletian and Galerius, where loyalty to the old gods like Jupiter and Mars was a soldier's creed. Yet, influenced by his mother Helena's devout Christianity, he evolved into a leader who saw the potential of this new faith to unify a fractured empire. His reign blended pragmatism with belief, as he supported Christians with privileges and church construction, while still honoring pagan traditions to maintain stability. This duality is what makes Constantine so fascinating, a man who navigated the tensions of his time with a vision that looked beyond the present. By the time of his death in 337, baptized on his deathbed and buried in the Church of the Holy Apostles in Constantinople, he had become a symbol of both Roman might and Christian faith, a legacy that would echo through the centuries. The impact of Constantine's choices is impossible to overstate. Constantinople, his new Rome, became the heart of the Byzantine Empire, a city that withstood invasions, plagues, and betrayals for over a millennium. Its strategic location on the Bosporus, its towering walls, and its vibrant culture made it a beacon of civilization, preserving Greek and Roman knowledge while spreading Christianity to the east. The Edict of Milan and the Council of Nicaea in 325, where Constantine sought to unify Christian doctrine, established the emperor as a spiritual leader, a role that would define Byzantine governance. His legal reforms, though overshadowed by later emperors, laid the groundwork for a Christianized legal system that influenced medieval Europe. And his embrace of Christianity set the stage for the faith's dominance, shaping the cultural and political landscape of the world from the Orthodox churches of Russia to the Catholic cathedrals of the West. Yet Constantine's legacy is not without its shadows. His decision to divide the empire among his sons Constantine II, Constans, and Constantius II after his death led to civil wars and deepened the rift between East and West, a divide that would eventually see the Western Roman Empire fall in 476, while Byzantium endured. His family life was marred by tragedy, with the execution of his son Crispus and wife Fausta in 326 casting a dark stain on his later years. And the religious unity he sought through the Council of Nicaea was fragile, as disputes like the Arian controversy persisted, foreshadowing centuries of theological conflict. Was Constantine a savior who rescued a crumbling empire, or a visionary whose bold choices sowed the seeds of future division? Perhaps he was both a man whose ambition and faith reshaped the world, but whose decisions carried consequences he could not foresee. Today, as we walk through the streets of modern-day Istanbul, once Constantinople, we can still feel Constantine's presence. The Hagia Sophia, though built after his time, stands on the foundations he laid, its dome a symbol of the Christian empire he envisioned. The city's ancient walls, though weathered by time, whisper stories of the emperor who dared to dream of a new Rome. And the Orthodox churches of Eastern Europe, from Greece to Russia, carry forward the faith he championed, a testament to his role as a bridge between the ancient and medieval worlds. Constantine's legacy is not just in stone or scripture, it's in the very fabric of our modern world, from the laws we live by to the religions we practice. His vision of a Christian empire, rooted in the East, ensured that the Roman legacy would endure in a new form, one that would face its own trials and triumphs in the centuries to come. But Constantine's story is only the beginning. 2 centuries after his death, another emperor would rise to take Byzantium to new heights, a man whose ambition would rival Constantine's, and whose reign would mark the empire's golden age. Justinian I, ascending the throne in 527, would build on Constantine's foundation, dreaming of restoring the Roman Empire to its former glory. Imagine an emperor who reconquered lost territories in North Africa and Italy, whose wife, Theodora, stood as a fierce partner in power, and whose architectural masterpiece, the Hagia Sophia, would become a wonder of the world. Justinian's reign was a time of brilliance and tragedy, from the creation of the Justinian Code, a legal foundation for modern law, to the devastating Justinian plague that claimed millions. What drove Justinian to pursue such grandeur, and how did his choices shape the Byzantine Empire's future? The story of Byzantium's golden age is one of soaring ambition and haunting fragility, a tale we'll explore in our next journey. As we close this chapter on Constantine the Great, let's carry forward the lessons of his life. He was a man who dared to envision a new world, who blended faith and power to forge an empire, and whose legacy continues to inspire us today. But history never stands still. What new heights would Byzantium reach under Justinian, and what challenges would test its resilience? If Constantine's story has captivated you, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell to join us for the next chapter in Byzantium's epic saga. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Constantine's legacy? And are you ready to discover Justinian's golden age? Together, let's continue this journey through history, where every story is a lesson, and every lesson a whisper from the past.